The flight was scheduled to leave Washington late enough that most people were already tired, impatient, and wrapped tightly inside their own worlds. Outside the terminal windows, the night pressed against the glass, dark and endless, while inside everything buzzed with motion and noise. Rolling suitcases rattled across the floor, loud laughter echoed from airport bars, and hurried announcements blurred into one another. In the middle of all that movement, almost invisible, walked a man in a worn jacket holding the hand of a little girl. Jack Rowan moved slowly, not because he was weak, but because he was careful. His jacket was old, the fabric softened by years of use, the elbows slightly faded. No logos, no shine, nothing that caught the eye. On his wrist rested a thin silver bracelet, dulled with age, the engraving almost worn smooth. Beside him, Ella skipped lightly, her small backpack bouncing against her shoulders, a teddy bear dangling from the zipper like it had been there forever. She looked up at her father constantly, as if checking that he was still real, still there. They reached the gate, joined the line, and waited. Around them stood people who looked like they belonged in magazines. Tailored suits, polished shoes, designer handbags, watches that gleamed under the terminal lights. Conversations floated through the air about deals, profits, first-class lounges, and vacation homes. Jack didn't listen. He was focused on Ella, on making sure she wasn't tired, on the way her fingers tightened around his when the line moved forward. They boarded quietly. Economy class, seat 12F, window side. Jack lifted Ella into her seat, buckled her belt carefully, checking it twice the way he always did. She smiled up at him with complete trust, the kind of smile that could undo a man if he wasn't careful. Behind them, two businessmen settled into their seats. Expensive cologne, low voices, laughter that carried just enough edge to be cruel. They glanced at Jack's jacket, at Ella's scuffed sneakers, at the economy row they were forced to sit in despite their status. Single dad, one of them muttered. Probably lost custody and got the kid on weekends. The other snickered. Economy class too. Figures. Jack heard every word. His jaw tightened for half a second, then relaxed. He said nothing. He pulled a small storybook from his bag, the cover bent at the corners, pages soft from being read again and again. Ella leaned closer. Daddy, can we read the one about the princess and the pilot? Of course, sweetheart. As he read, his voice low and steady, the world around them faded. The princess flew across clouds, the pilot guided her safely through storms, and Ella's imagination soared higher than the plane ever would. For a moment, Jack forgot where he was. A flight attendant approached, her smile professional but thin. She glanced at Jack's overhead bin, then at his jacket. Sir, your bag needs to be pushed in further. You're blocking space for other passengers. I'll take care of it, Jack replied calmly. Please do it now, she said, her tone sharper. We're on a tight schedule. Jack stood, adjusted the bag, slid it back as far as it would go. The businessmen exchanged looks, one of them whispering loudly enough to be heard that some people just didn't know how to travel. Jack returned to his seat without comment. Ella looked up at him, confused. Daddy, why is everyone upset? They're just busy, honey. That's all. The plane filled. A woman across the aisle wrinkled her nose at Jack's jacket. A teenager behind them blasted music through earbuds, unconcerned with anyone else. The engines roared to life, vibrations humming through the floor. As the plane taxied, Ella rested her head against Jack's shoulder. Daddy, do you miss flying? Jack's eyes drifted to the window. Ground crews moved below, glowing batons cutting through the dark. He remembered other runways, other nights, other aircraft that moved faster than sound and carried far heavier responsibility. I do, he said softly. But I have something better now. What's that? You. Ella smiled and closed her eyes. The plane lifted, Washington shrinking into a sea of lights beneath them. Jack glanced at his bracelet. The engraving caught the cabin light for just a moment. Guardian Flight 7. No one noticed. No one ever did. That was the point. 20 minutes later, the seatbelt sign turned off. Passengers stood, stretched, opened bins. Drinks carts rattled down the aisle. Jack stayed seated, reading. Ella pointed at pictures of clouds, whispering questions. The same flight attendant returned. Water for her, coffee for him. As she turned, the cart bumped Jack's elbow, spilling coffee across the tray. She barely reacted. You should be more careful. Jack grabbed napkins, cleaned it himself. No problem. But it is a problem, the businessman in front snapped, turning around. Some of us paid a lot to avoid people like you. Jack looked at him evenly. People like me. Yeah, people who bring kids on late flights. Who don't belong. The cabin went quiet. Eyes shifted. Jack's hands rested calmly on the armrest, scarred knuckles telling stories no one asked to hear. I'm just trying to get home, he said. The man scoffed and turned away. Ella tugged at Jack's sleeve. Daddy, why are they so mean? Because they forgot something important. What? That manners fly higher than money. She nodded, serious. I'll remember that. The lights dimmed. Engines hummed. Then something changed. A vibration, subtle but wrong. The lights flickered. The seatbelt sign chimed on abruptly. Murmurs spread. The captain's voice came on, calm but tight, mentioning turbulence. Jack knew better. His eyes scanned the ceiling indicators. A red flicker, gone as fast as it appeared. Interference. His training woke instantly. He stood. A flight attendant hurried over, telling him to sit. Jack raised his wrist slightly, fingers moving in a precise, controlled gesture. The bracelet flashed. Recognition hit her face like a wave. Wait here, she whispered, and rushed toward the cockpit. Inside, confusion reigned. Radar anomalies. Unidentified tracking. The co-pilot's face drained of color as he read the data. 2 aircraft. Military. Outside, shadows formed against the clouds. F-22 Raptors slid into position, silent and perfect. Who is sitting in 12F? The captain whispered. Get him, now. When Jack walked forward, every passenger watched. The businessman stared, disbelief replacing arrogance. Jack kissed Ella's forehead, promised to return, and disappeared behind the cockpit door. Minutes passed. Long, unbearable minutes. Then the radio crackled. A voice sharp, respectful, unmistakably military. Request confirmation of General Jack Rowan. The cockpit froze. Outside, the fighters held formation. Permission to render honors. Granted. The Raptors rolled in perfect unison, lights flashing in deliberate salute, a maneuver reserved for legends. The cabin gasped. Phones lifted. Tears flowed. Jack stood silently, throat tight, memories crashing in waves. Welcome home, sir. When Jack returned to his seat, the plane was transformed. People stood. Apologies whispered. The flight attendant cried openly as she saluted him. The businessman couldn't meet his eyes. Ella looked up, awe shining in her face. Daddy, those planes said hello to you. Something like that. They landed in Phoenix to applause. On the jetway, a formation waited, uniforms crisp, salutes sharp. Passengers stopped, forming a silent corridor. Veterans nodded. Civilians wept. Ella squeezed Jack's hand. Daddy, why are they being so nice now? Jack knelt, meeting her eyes. Because they remembered that everyone has a story. 1 year later, a school auditorium buzzed with parents and cameras. Ella Rowan, now 11, stood on stage. My hero doesn't wear a cape, she began. He wears an old jacket. People once laughed at him because they thought he wasn't important. But I learned that night that true strength is quiet, and real heroes don't need to be loud to change the world. She looked toward the crowd, toward Jack, sitting quietly in the back. She finished by saying that kindness costs nothing, respect weighs nothing, and you never know who you're judging until it's too late. The room rose in applause. And somewhere, deep in the hearts of everyone listening, something shifted. Because the story wasn't just about a general on a plane. It was about how we see people, how quickly we judge, and how powerful it is to choose humility over pride. If this story moved you, reminded you to look twice, to be kinder, to believe that quiet strength still exists in the world, then carry that message forward. Like, subscribe, and share this story, because sometimes one reminder is all it takes to change how we treat each other forever.